Good morning, everyone. I would like to call this meeting of the Public Accounts Committee to order and welcome everyone in attendance. My name is Irfan Sabir, the MLA for Calgary Buller-McCall and chair of the committee. As we begin this morning, I would like to invite members, guests, and LAO staff at the table to introduce themselves, and we will begin to my right.
Good morning, everyone. Brandon Lunty, MLA for Leduc Beaumont.
Glenn Van Dyken, the MLA for Athabasca, Barhead, Westlock.
Good morning, everyone. Tara Sawyer, MLA for Old Didsbury Three Hills.
Threlzol, MLA, Vermilion, Lloydminster, Wainwright.
Ron Weeb, MLA for Grand Prairie, Wapiti.
Karen Zoltanko, business leader from the Office of the Auditor General.
Morning, Rob Dreesen, Assistant Auditor General.
Marlon Schmidt, Edmonton Gold Bar.
Good morning, Janet Aramenko, MLA for Calgary Curry.
Morning, Cord Ellingson, MLA Calgary Foothills.
Bonnie Govindarajan, Parliamentary Council.
Good morning, Nancy Robert, Clerk of Journals and Committees.
Good morning, Warren Huffman, Committee Clerk.
Thank you, and we will now go to those joining us online. Please introduce yourself as I call your name, MLA Jackie Lovely.
Jackie Lovely, MLA Camrose Constituency.
Thank you. I will note for the record the following substitutions. Mr. Weeb for Ms. Jiang and Mr. Allingson for Ms. Renault. A few housekeeping items to address before we turn to the business at hand. Please note that the microphones are operated by Hansard staff. Committee proceedings are live streamed on the internet and broadcast on Alberta Assembly TV. The audio and video stream and transcripts of meeting can be accessed via the Legislative Assembly website. Those participating by video conference are encouraged to turn on your camera while speaking and mute your microphone when not speaking. Members participating virtually who wish to be placed on a speaker list are asked to email or send a message to the committee clerk, and members in the room are asked to please signal to the chair. I think, Member Lovely, you can also use the raise hand function. Please set your cell phone and other devices to silent for the duration of the meeting, and comments should flow through the chair at all times. Approval of agenda. Members, are there any changes or addition to the agenda? Seeing none, would a member like to move that Standing Committee on Public Accounts approve the proposed agenda as distributed for its December 2nd, 2025 meeting? So moved. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? All in favor online? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Approval of minutes. We have minutes from the November 25, 2025 meeting of the committee. Do members have any errors or omissions to note? If not, would a member move that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts approve the minutes as distributed of its meeting held on November 25, 2025? Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The motion is carried. Subcommittee on Committee's Business Report. That's the next item. The Subcommittee on Committee's Business met on November 12, 2025 to discuss making recommendations related to the committee's spring 2026 meeting schedule, the committee's trial of conducting audit-focused meetings, and some best practices that former Deputy Chair and I raised during our oral report on the 2025 Canadian Council of Public Accounts Committees Conference. The subcommittee's report was posted on the committee's internal site for the members' review, and I would note that the committee is not required to consider subcommittee's recommendation. However, they provide a good starting point for the discussion. As is the normal practice, the committee may want to decide on a meeting schedule during the spring session to provide ample time for committee members, the ministries, the Office of Auditor General, the Auditor General, and the LAO to prepare for meetings. PAC typically has between 7 and 9 meetings during the spring session, taking into account a 2-week break during main estimate consideration. The subcommittee has recommended that the committee meet with the following 7 ministries during the 2026 spring session to review their most recent annual reports and related reports of the recommendations of the Auditor General in the following order. Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Affordability and Utilities, Ministry of Education and Childcare, Ministry of Energy and Minerals, Ministry of Public Safety and Emergency Services, Ministry of Environment and Protected Areas, and the Ministry of Assisted Living and Social Services. The Ministry of Justice was on our list of ministries to meet with during the 2025 fall session. However, it was not scheduled because when the fall 2025 schedule was set, the meeting date would have fallen after the sessional calendar ended. Following the committee's normal practice, the Ministry of Justice should be scheduled as the first ministry. We meet during the 2026 spring session. I'll now open the floor to question, comments, or motion related to the schedule of the meeting for spring 2026. If members are in favor of subcommittee's recommended list, we have motion prepared. If members have other recommendations or motions, they are free to do so at this point. Member Schmidt.
Just some clarification, Mr. Chair. So on process, it looks like we're on agenda item number 4, Subcommittee on Committee Business Report. Do we not just take the subcommittee's report as read and then move on to the other agenda items?
No, and I think I was moving on to 5 as well. I didn't mention that expressly, but I moved on to 5.
If that's
it's kind of
gotcha. Okay. If that's the case, then, Mr. Chair, I do have a motion to move regarding the committee schedule.
Go ahead, Member Schmidt.
So I move the following, that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts invite the following ministries to appear before the committee to respond to questions regarding each ministry's most recent annual report, responsibilities under the purview during that reporting period, and reports of the Auditor General relevant to the responsibilities of the ministry, and invite the ministries and entities relevant to the following reports of the Auditor General to appear before the committee for audit-focused meetings on those reports. 1. Justice. 2. Audit-focused meeting to review the Auditor General's An Examination of Community Laboratory Services Contract with DynaLife report. 3. Primary and preventative care. 4. Hospitals and surgical health services. 5. Assisted living and social services. 6. Education and childcare. 7. Energy and minerals. 8. Public safety and emergency services. 9. Affordability and utilities. And 10, audit-focused meeting to review the Auditor General's upcoming audit report on Alberta Health Services procurement practices. And then do I get an opportunity to motivate this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this proposed schedule preserves more or less the recommended spring meeting schedule that the subcommittee recommends, but it importantly reinstates the practice of holding audit-focused meetings specifically to review the Auditor General's recent report on DynaLife, as well as to make time in the schedule for reviewing the upcoming Auditor General's report on Alberta Health Services procurement practices. I want to congratulate Member Rosewell and the chair of the committee for starting this practice of audit-focused meetings. I think our experience with the surface water report and the public housing report was helpful in terms of pressing the departments to do better. And I think it's really important to the people of Alberta that we review the Auditor General's examination of the Community Laboratory Services contract with DynaLife report, particularly because the Auditor General identified a number of unusual challenges that I think this committee would be well suited to address. You know, the Auditor General identified that government claimed legal and cabinet privilege over a wide range of documents without providing any justification or explanation as to why they did that. They had a team of lawyers go over 10,000 documents line by line before they were provided to the Auditor General, which is something that is highly unusual. And they also limited access to documentation with large sections of thousands of documents redacted. And all of that meant that the Auditor General couldn't fully complete the report into the Dynalife contract. And as a result, we don't know how much Alberta taxpayers are on the hook for getting out of that contract. We don't know the full extent to about the decision-making process that ended up with at least this $100 million bill to Albertans. There are a lot of questions that remain unanswered, even though the Auditor General had a chance to review this report, and I think that it's important for the Public Accounts Committee to continue to hold these audit-focused meetings. Furthermore, we know that the Auditor General is working on the Alberta Health Services Procurement Practices report, and that has been the focus of a lot of investigations of this government. Now, the government has clearly said that they want to you know, be open and transparent. And in fact, the Premier in a recent news interview said that her biggest regret as Premier has been failing to adequately scrutinize AHS's procurement practices. And she said, quote, "By leaving things in the hands solely of an agency that had no oversight, there are some things that went wrong." Here we have an opportunity for all of us to carry out the Premier's wishes and look into AHS procurement practices once the Auditor General's report has been released. And so I'm certain that members would be in favor of doing what the Premier wants and examining this closely. So those are the reasons for proposing this schedule that I've brought forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Member Lenty.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it would make some sense to move forward. I'm speaking against this amendment. I think we should move forward with our list as agreed to at the subcommittee meeting. I might add a couple of the ministries on the proposed list have yet to produce an annual report, which we would expect.
That's the only motion now on the floor.
Sure. So
if you want to amend it.
Yeah, I can speak just to
this. It's not amendment to the subcommittee report. Members are free to choose their own motion on schedule.
Okay.
So that's the only motion on the floor.
Yes, so I can speak against this motion. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Your call.
So well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't then to your comments necessarily go into a lot of detail other than to say I think we should reject this amendment, and then we can, to your point, if we are going to be entertaining other motions on what our schedule should look like. Thank you.
This is not an amendment. This is the main motion that's on the floor. So if you're speaking against this motion, please go ahead.
Thank you. So yes, thanks for the correction of speaking against this motion, not this amendment. So as I was commenting on, this motion would include two ministries that have yet to produce an annual report and are unlikely to do so by the spring schedule. So it would be difficult to review that. I would also note in our agenda today we have a discussion upcoming about audit-focused meetings. So I would speak against this motion for that reason, as our committee has yet to make a determination on that. So for those two reasons, I would encourage our committee members to oppose this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Member Armenko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to speak in support of the motion. I'm confused. I believe all the annual reports for fiscal year 2024-25 are posted. I'm not clear on Member Lundy's concerns that we don't have the information available for all of the ministries. What I think is really critical here, and where I believe consensus had initially been reached, is around, floating a bit of a trial balloon on bringing forward audit-focused meetings. There were supposed to be 3. They stopped at 2. And I think that there was clear agreement that there was great benefit to being able to talk about those audit-focused meetings and actually delve deeper into the audit reports that came from the Auditor General. Per Standing Order 53-1, public accounts and all reports of the Auditor General shall stand permanently referred to the Public Accounts Committee as they become available. I think it is squarely within the mandate of this committee to delve deeper into those Auditor General reports, particularly the performance-related ones. It's as much about sound accounting practices and financial record keeping as it is about value for money spent. It's the mandate of this committee, and I think we're all honored to be here and demonstrate that there is in fact value for taxpayer dollars. And it's where those Auditor General performance reviews are certainly so critical, and where, again, there is the opportunity for us to not just accept the report and then put it up on the shelf, that in fact we are identifying, endorsing the recommendations, perhaps asking for the recommendations to go a little bit further, and then in the interview process with ministries and departmental staff to actually talk about what is your plan to accomplish those recommendations. Just trusting it on face value is incredibly challenging when we've heard already in the last ministry-related conversations that there are recommendations that have been outstanding for many years from the Auditor General, and to be able to do a deep dive into the Auditor General performance-related reports and ask some of those pressing questions, I think in a way that Albertans would expect from all of us to say what's the plan, what is the holdup, and how is that actually going to be rectified? We know in jurisdictions across the country that this is a practice of other committees. I think in many ways we're in fact the outlier for not doing that deeper dive into the Auditor General reports. The AG's office operates on a significant multi-million-dollar budget every single year. For us to ensure that their work is in fact informing departmental decision-making, budget-making decisions, I think this is exactly the place where we need to be talking about those reports a little bit more thoroughly. I know the members opposite weren't pleased with the press release from the opposition caucus about public housing units and the deferred maintenance that is putting people at risk, frankly, but that is precisely the role of this committee. It's to do that. Auditor General report was out in the public, and it is precisely the opportunity of this committee to talk about them further and ensure that plans are actually put in place to implement the recommendations that the AG has put forward in a very objective and performance-related way to ensure that we're providing value for taxpayer dollar.
Thank you, Member. MLA Van Dyken.
Thank you, Chair. For clarity, I would suggest that we have a couple ministries up there that have not produced an annual report and cannot speak to an annual report in the spring of 26. So I think it would be premature to ask them to come to the Public Accounts Committee when our role here is to go through annual reports with departments. I also believe that we have a Ledge Offices Committee that oversees the work that the Auditor General is doing and is able to ensure that that work continues in a way that's transparent to Albertans. To bring that work into the realm of the Public Accounts Committee, I think is probably interfering with the work that the Ledge Offices Committee is doing with those officers of the legislature.
Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've heard many bad faith arguments in my 10 years as an elected official, but this really takes the cake. To suggest that Ledge Offices is the committee that oversees the Auditor General's work is purposely misrepresenting what the work of the Ledge Offices Committee does and what the work of this committee does. Ledge Offices doesn't do anything to review the actual reports that the Auditor General releases. They just oversee the budget of the Office of the Auditor General. That's it. Furthermore, this red herring about departments that haven't yet produced annual reports is really hard to swallow, because one has bounced around ministries 3 or 4 times over the last few years, and we've always looked at the annual reports for childcare, regardless of which ministry it happens to be at the time. You know, for the members to walk in here and say, oh, it's not our job, this is some other committee's work, is not to be believed. But I do want to pose a question to the members opposite, since Member Lunty raised this. He said that, oh, further in the agenda, then we have a discussion around audit-focused meetings. Is it his intention then to bring forward a schedule for audit-focused meetings at that time? And if it is, then why can't members opposite support this motion?
Any other discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we can have that discussion on audit-focused meetings at the next part of our agenda. This part of our agenda is to set our schedule. So I've already spoken against this motion for setting our schedule, and I look forward to the discussion later on in our agenda. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make one final comment, and then I think we can wrap up this part of the agenda. You know, I don't think the members opposite ran for office to cover up corruption and mismanagement in the Premier's office and in the Health Ministry. But that's exactly what they're voting for if they vote down this motion. Shame on them, I guess, for carrying the Premier's water and covering up corruption and mismanagement and refusing to even get to the bottom of all of these issues. One last chance for them to change their mind and do the right thing here.
And thank you. Seeing no other comments, I will put the question. All those members in favor of the motion moved by MLA Schmidt. Aye. All those opposed?
No. Can we have a recorded vote, please, Mr. Chair?
Sure. Motion is defeated, and we have a request for the recorded vote, and clerk will conduct the recorded vote. So all those in favor, please raise the hands, and committee clerk will do the rest. All those in favor, raise the hand.
Mr. Ellingson, Member Aramenko, Honorable Mr. Schmidt.
All those opposed, please raise your hands.
Mr. Lunty, Mr. Van Dyken, Mrs. Sawyer, Mr. Rosewell, Mr. Wiebe, and Ms. Lovely. Mr. Chair, for the motion 6, against 3.
Other way around.
So I apologize. Sorry. For the motion 3, against 6.
Thank you. This motion is defeated. Are there any other motions at this time? Member Rosewell.
Yeah, I'd like to move the subcommittee motion, if we could bring it up. Or subcommittee recommendation.
Motion that subcommittee is recommended. We do have that.
that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts invite the following ministries to appear before the committee to respond to questions regarding each ministry's most recent annual report, responsibilities under their purview during that reporting period. The report of the Auditor General is relevant to the responsibilities of the Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Affordability and Utilities, Ministry of Education and Childcare, Minister of Energy and Minerals, Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services, Ministry of Environment and Protected Areas, and Ministry of Assisted Living and Social Services.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
It's the subcommittee's recommendation, and I'd like to follow that.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I will put the question before the committee. All those in favor of the motion moved by MLA Roswell? Aye. All those opposed? No. Thank you. Motion is carried. Next agenda item is audit focused meeting. As member of aware, over the past year, the committee has been conducted process of holding audit focused meetings to review identified audit reports of the Auditor General. We may have used the word trial, but I may not be using that anymore because Section 53.1, as was referred by Member Armenko, says that all the Auditor General reports stand permanently referred to the Public Accounts Committee, so it's up to the members if they want to include those reports in their schedule or not, but as such, that's within the purview of the committee. And discussion around that began when former Deputy Chair and I attended 2024 CCPAC conference and witnessed that many jurisdictions in Canada do conduct review of audit reports in addition to public accounts reports of the different ministries. The committee held its first audit focus report on April 29th, focusing on surface water management audit, and the second meeting on the process to assess and manage the condition of affordable housing report on October 14th. A third audit focus meeting was scheduled for November 18. However, the committee canceled that meeting. At this point, we do not have any audit focus meeting on the schedule, as subcommittee couldn't reach the consensus on recommendation for the upcoming spring schedule. However, the subcommittee urges members to discuss how they want to proceed with audit focus meeting, talk about things that worked, that didn't work, whether they want to continue holding audit focus meeting going forward, and if so, the format and process for such meetings. Although we don't have any audit report on schedule, I personally believe that that's something that is in standing orders, that these reports, Auditor General reports, stand permanently referred to this Public Account Committee. I believe that committee should look into those reports. From my perspective, those audit focus meetings were excellent examples of how effective PACs are intended to function, and I remain hopeful that committee will build on that success going forward. And before I turn it over to members, I would like to invite Deputy Chair to provide some comments if he would like to do so.
Well, sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as you mentioned, this was an issue that we thought was something that the committee would like to discuss at this meeting. So I would confirm the chair's accounts of that, and would look forward to some discussion on this process. And if I might, provide a few quick comments on this. I think it's important to understand that when we invite ministries and of course the Auditor General to all our PAC meetings when we meet with those ministries, that any work that they've done, including audit-focused reports, certainly has that opportunity to be discussed with the associated ministry when they join us. So we certainly, as a committee, have an opportunity to review those reports or any report that the Auditor General may have completed when we talk to those ministry officials. So I think it's important to understand that is under the purview of our committee, and I know we've had some good discussions based on what the Auditor General's brought forward at those meetings. So I look forward to hearing from committee members on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will now open the floor for discussion. Member Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have another motion that I'd like to bring forward. So I move that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts hold 2 audit-focused meetings during the 2026 spring sitting to review the Auditor General's report titled An Examination of Community Laboratory Services Contract with DynaLife and the audit report on Alberta Health Services procurement practices after the report has been released, and invite the relevant ministries and entities to whom the Auditor General has made recommendations to appear before the committee. Again, I can't overstate the importance of getting to the bottom of the work that the Auditor General has done and the significant roadblocks that government put in front of the Auditor General's office in investigating the DynaLife contract, and I presume has also put in front of the Alberta Health Services procurement investigation, although that remains to be seen. I just hope that members have already had enough time to realize the error of their first decision voting down a proposal that would have included these on the schedule and vote in favor of this motion to do the right thing.
Wishing to speak? Member Armenko.
Yeah, I'd like to speak in support of the motion as well. In the letter from the Auditor General concerning the DynaLife report, the AG says that our access to information was restricted by Alberta Health Services, and this restriction was supported by the Department of Health when there was just 1 and not 4. These comments can't be ignored, and the mechanism to investigate them, Mr. Chair, is right here. It's in the Public Accounts Committee. The Canadian Audit and Accounting Foundation reinforces that entities are not accountable to the legislative auditor. The auditor is doing their job to audit the finances and the performance of departments, and the department is not accountable to the auditor. The department is accountable to this committee. And so when the auditor is raising such significant flags in the DynaLife report, another example, quote, government did not follow its own procurement frameworks, the very processes designed to safeguard public resources and ensure value for money. This is exactly the place where we can probe further with the departmental staff, with the ministries, the individuals responsible for example, procurement frameworks, and get to the bottom of what exactly the auditor was trying to uncover but was unable as a result of their obfuscation or, shredding of documents. This is precisely the committee where that work needs to take place. And it's ironic that for the exact same reason that the members opposite voted down the last motion saying that the annual reports aren't available for those ministries, and here they're saying it's the annual reports and the regular ministry attendance at these meetings that will allow for us to delve deeper. The very fact that those ministries don't have annual reports currently available because they're so new means that we can't have a timely way to address the concerns that are being raised here. That is exactly why we need to be talking about the DynaLife report from the Auditor General, because there won't be another annual report specifically to this as a result of their shell game of moving departments and ministries around, or departments around different ministries, that we won't have an opportunity to actually get to the heart of this in a quick and expedited way in which I would expect Albertans would want, and I would expect the members opposite would want too. How long are we going to sit on these procurement framework issues until the right ministry puts out the right annual report so that they can come and sit at this committee. We have the information before us. We have the mandate before us to address it now. What are they so afraid of?
Any other member wishing to speak? Seeing none, just give me a minute or so. Thank you. I think given this standing order section 53(1), that public accounts and all reports of Auditor General shall stand permanently referred to the Public Accounts Committee as they become available. That's the standing order passed by the legislature, so it's not as such open to the committee to decide that they will not do that permanently or anything. What's open to the committee is whether they would schedule one of those Auditor General report coming spring or not, and that's what this motion is about. So seeing no other discussion, I will just leave it to the committee to make that determination by voting for or against this motion. So I will ask the question that all those in favor of this motion asking to hold two audit focus meeting in the coming session, all those in favor, please say aye. I think you guys are in favor, no? Question on the floor is.
I'm sorry, I'm just not sure. I was just confirming procedural. Oh, I'm sorry.
Question has been called, so all those in favor of the motion moved by Member Schmidt.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Motion is defeated. Moving on. Agenda item 7, best practices from 2025 CCPAC CEQUALA conference. In the oral report on this year's CCPAC conference that the former deputy chair and I delivered to the committee, we identified 4 best practices that we hope the committee would consider implementing for our Alberta Public Account Committee. The first of that recommendation was that some jurisdiction read out a short purpose statement at the beginning of each meeting that sets out the mandate and purpose of their Public Accounts Committee. The subcommittee has recommended that the committee consider introducing a purpose statement to be read out at the beginning of each meeting that highlights the committee's mandate, objective, and purpose. Some things that we identified for the committee to consider are the committee's mandate and purpose, that the committee's role is to examine the administration of government policy and not the merit of it, that the committee works in partnership with the Auditor General, and the members work in a collaborative and non-partisan way whenever possible. And if there is an interest in pursuing the idea of a purpose statement, the committee may choose to task the subcommittee with making recommendation on the wording of the purpose statement, which could be presented to the committee for the review and final approval. I will open the floor for discussion. If Deputy Chair or former Deputy Chair want to make any comments to that.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I look forward to discussion amongst our committee. I believe in your overview, you mentioned that there was consensus on 2 of the 4 items, and we were hoping for a discussion perhaps on the other 2 as well. So I look forward to that discussion. Thank you.
Anyone else? So, should I ask somebody to move? Okay. So, I think I will go one by one those recommendations. So on this particular recommendation purpose statement, is it the committee's will that we proceed with this purpose statement and subcommittee can present a draft at some future meeting? Is that the consensus? Anybody opposed? I think seeing none, that's the direction from the committee, that draft a purpose statement. And we can discuss it in subcommittee and present before the committee for final approval in our next meeting. The next best practice that the subcommittee considered was that in some other Canadian PAC require ministries to provide a comprehensive implementation plan detailing how they intend to address the recommendations of the Auditor General. The subcommittee could not reach the consensus on a recommended path and indicated that we would discuss that as a whole in the committee. My understanding is that currently ministries in Alberta provide comprehensive implementation plan and recommendations of the Auditor General to the Auditor General's office. By contrast, our committee receives from the ministry a less detailed status report on the implementation of Auditor General's recommendations. At this point, I would like to ask the Assistant Auditor General if he wants to weigh in on this regarding the formats and types of the content contained in the implementation plan that his office receives, or he is aware that other PACs receive from the ministries. So, Mr. Risen.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll provide the committee here with just an overview of the process and what entities where we issue recommendations provide to us, and then what we do with those over time. So an implementation plan really just lays out how the entity will change its processes to deal with the recommendations that we've issued. Those plans would include the processes that they plan on changing, aligned with the weaknesses that have been identified. Who's going to be responsible for making those changes, and the timeline of when those will be completed. It'll also lay out what sort of documentation will be produced, which will be able to demonstrate that these changes have been made, and also what the entity has done to ensure that what they've implemented is operating effectively. It's not just so much what is maybe planned or designed to be changed. It's making sure that when that is implemented, it is actually working effectively. Otherwise, you really haven't dealt with the recommendation. So we asked to get a copy of these implementation plans within 6 months of issuing a recommendation to the entity. And we want to receive those before the entity has started to execute their plan. And what we do is review these plans, take a look at what the entity is intending to do to implement the recommendation, and see if there's anything in there that we can see as a bit of a fatal flaw that might cause an issue with those recommendations not being dealt with. We do that just to try and ensure that no time is wasted, money wasted in trying to implement processes that are not going to be effective in the end dealing with recommendations. We have, when that is completed, we do issue a formal letter back to the entity to say that we concur that the plan, if they execute it this way, should deal with the recommendation. We've had some issues with not receiving those plans within that 6-month timeline. Sometimes we don't receive them at all. So we do follow up to try and get a good understanding. Sometimes when they are received late, we will still provide some feedback to the entity. But in some cases where they have already started to execute the plan, if we identify that there are some issues, that will require them to decide whether they're going to go back and try to rework where those issues have popped up. After they have completed their implementation, they'll notify us that the recommendation has been implemented. And then we will go about planning when it makes some sense for us to go in and assess that implementation. Again, some considerations are, is there enough data to be able to demonstrate, that they can demonstrate to us that the recommendation has been implemented and that it is working effectively? So depending on the recommendation, the amount of data that needs to kind of accumulate over time might vary a little bit. And so if they're able to provide that information to us and can demonstrate that the recommendation is implemented, that's when we're in a position to then be able to say that and report back to the committee and to Albertans that those recommendations are in fact implemented.
Thank you. Any other discussion? MLA Schmidt.
So I have a motion to bring forward on this issue, if I may, Mr. Chair. So just before I do, we're only dealing with the subcommittee's discussion about requesting ministry implementation plans at this point, right? So then I move that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts request each ministry appearing before the committee to provide its implementation plan for all outstanding recommendations of the Auditor General made to the ministry. I think it was revealing to me and to my colleagues here on this side of the table to look at the implementation plans that the department's developed for the surface water recommendations from the Auditor General and the public housing recommendations that were brought forward by the Auditor General, and particularly with respect to the public housing piece, how long the department is kicking the can down the road. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt you. That's the motion.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm just.
How about you read that into the record? I think you just.
So
read
this
the
is
first part, not the second.
Yeah. Well, it's up to the chair, Mr. Chair. I assume I was under the understanding that we were going through these conference recommendations one by one. When we drafted this was assuming that we would be dealing with them all at the same time. So
separate.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. So
Okay.
I'm just bringing forward the motion with Part A.
Is that, Member Smith, is that okay? Will that capture your?
Yes, that captures the
comment?
intent. And as I was saying, I think it was quite clear from reviewing the public or the ministry's implementation plan regarding the public housing reporting information that the department is clearly kicking the can down the road and not interested in actually implementing the auditor's recommendations. And so when we reviewed that, we provided value to the people of Alberta by holding the department to account for the promises that it made to the Auditor General. And this is the only way that the people of Alberta see these implementation plans publicly. Otherwise, these are just documents that are held within the ministry and held by the Auditor General. By asking for these implementation plans, the people of Alberta can see what the government has promised to do with respect to implementing the Auditor General's recommendations and see whether or not our committee is holding those departments to account for those promises. And so I think that these have tremendous value for accountability, and I think that it would be wise for the committee to ask for these implementation plans for every recommendation from the Auditor General, from every ministry.
Thank you. Any other comments? MLA Lundy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Auditor General's Office for their comments earlier and sort of highlighting how the implementation process works and the value that they bring to this process. I would just maybe preface my comments by saying, the role of our committee is to provide oversight. We're not an operational management committee. And, I think we found that when we get the opportunity to go over what the Auditor General brings us through this committee, we always, of course, make sure that we're looking at what they're talking about and their information they provided in relation to how the ministry is progressing on their Auditor General's recommendations. So I think that's a process that would make sense to continue as is. I would ask to not support this motion. I feel it would set PAC on a track where we're looking at some day-to-day operational functions, which is would be steering away from PAC's role as a high-level financial accountability framework. So I would suggest voting against this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else? Emily Schmidt.
Mr. Chair, so again, we're seeing bad faith arguments made by the members opposite. This is not a day-to-day operational review of the goings-on in the ministry. This is an opportunity for us as the Public Accounts Committee to hold departments to account for the promises that they made to implement the Auditor General's recommendations. That is our job. I don't know what members opposite think the job of this committee is. Maybe it's just to come in and drink coffee for 2 hours on a Tuesday morning. But it seems to me very clear this morning that they don't think that the committee's job is to hold departments to account for the work that they're doing. And by voting against this ministry or this motion, members opposite are shirking their responsibilities to the people of Alberta yet again.
Any other comments? Member Armenko.
I've been spending a lot of time on the Canadian Audit and Accountability Foundation site. Quick reference, Performance Audit Primer. The purpose of the Public Accounts Committee is about ensuring economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. To suggest that this is exclusively about just following financials is not true to the mandate of this committee, nor is it true to the good work that's happening out of the Office of the Auditor General, where a good third, I believe, of their work is done specifically on performance audits. It is specifically to look at the actual effectiveness of the implementation of policy. And so I'm happy to pass the link for the foundation to the members opposite if they'd like to do a little bit of research about what it is that we are doing here in this committee, and to suggest that to ensure the adequate, timely implementation of the recommendations from the Auditor General is not within the purview of this committee is simply false.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of the motion moved by Member Schmidt.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion. Thank you. Motion is defeated. Moving along, the third takeaway we had from the conference related to regular follow-up with the ministries after meeting has concluded. Often, PACs in other jurisdictions regularly follow up with the ministries on the progress they have made in implementing the Auditor General's recommendations. If the ministry doesn't appear to be making any adequate progress on implementation of recommendation, it may be requested to appear before the committee again to respond to the implementation delays. The subcommittee again couldn't reach a consensus on a recommendation regarding this practice and suggested that perhaps we should leave it for the members to discuss this issue. I would now like to open the floor for discussion. Any comments? Member Schmidt.
Thank you. I have a motion. So I move that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts follow up with the ministry every 6 months on the status of the implementation of the outstanding recommendations until the recommendations have been implemented. I get the sense from just the way this meeting is going that I'm tilting at another windmill here. It's quite clear that the members opposite, I don't know what they get out of these meetings. If they're not here to do the work, to hold the departments to account, like, why even bother showing up? There are plenty of other things that I'm sure that they would rather be doing. This is an opportunity for at least this committee to get progress reports on how the departments are doing. And I go back to the public housing implementation plan. Regular follow-up might actually move the needle when it comes to getting that department to do the work that it's promised that it's doing, because those 6 months follow-ups will at least be a reminder to the department that they promised to achieve some objectives by some certain times. I certainly hope that all members at least do some work and vote in favor of this motion.
Thank you. Any other comments? Member Arminkle.
So the third report that we should have been talking about, per the schedule that the subcommittee had agreed to, was the Dinah Life report from the Office of the Auditor General. And it just points to me that, you know, if we could quickly kind of nip this in the bud, then we wouldn't be sitting on this pile of waste and increased wait times and diagnostic errors and compromised patients as a result of a poor procurement decision. $125 million down the tube as a result of AHS and the ministers and the Departments of Health decisions around privatizing community lab services. And if we had in fact talked about that report when it was scheduled to be discussed until the members opposite decided to cancel that third meeting, then it seems to me, just imagine for a moment what that conversation could look like if we actually had a concrete, constructive conversation that unpacked and understood the implementation plan to ensure that that never happened again, and that we then also had the mechanisms, the agreed upon mechanisms to follow up and ensure that those changes were actually being made. Very much like the two reports that did move forward for discussion, and unfortunately the Dinah Life report was canceled for discussion at this table, but I just think given the incredible risks and the liabilities that that project, that endeavor presented to Albertans, this is exactly the space where we could rectify that situation and make sure it never happens again. All the more reason why we should have these regular touch bases and ensure that we are actually making progress where departments say they're doing it.
Thank you. Any other? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of the motion moved by MLA Schmidt. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. Motion is defeated. The final item raised was to increase the number of PAC members who attend the annual CCPAC conference, allowing more members to hear from their peers about the different processes and best practices of PACs across Canada. The subcommittee has recommended that the committee consider expanding our attendance at the conference by offering the opportunity to attend to one additional committee member from each caucus. Before I turn it over to the members, I would note that any decisions with respect to CCPAC participation can wait until we meet during the spring sitting, as the conference is not yet scheduled. However, I do note that at the conference, many jurisdictions have sent additional members, and I think MLA Rosewell will attest to that hearing directly from other PACs, hearing directly from different auditors general, hearing directly from CAF, CA, Canadian Audit and Accountability Foundation, certainly helped me personally understand the role of PAC better, the practices which are working in different jurisdictions. So I would suggest that we do send more members from each side to these conferences to benefit from this conference. And with that, I will open the floor for discussion. Any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this makes sense. I think we would appreciate the opportunity to expand the participation at this conference, and look forward to seeing the agenda when the meeting is finalized. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments?
Of course, when a taxpayer-paid flight to Halifax is in the offing, the members are all over it. It's been clear from the day that these guys were elected that all of they're interested in is lining their own pockets. They voted for pay increases, they voted for residence increases, they're voting for parliamentary secretary salary increases. Now they want a taxpayer flight when they've done nothing for the last hour but undermine the work that the Public Accounts Committee is going to do. They're going to charge the taxpayers to go to Halifax and learn more about what public accounts does. Welcome. Do some work here before we send you to Halifax on the taxpayers' dime. This is absolutely outrageous. These members should hang their heads in shame. And, you know, I hope that when they go to Halifax that they hang a sign around their neck that says, the taxpayers paid for me and I'm going to go back to Alberta and not do any work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think
We don't have to comment on it.
no, go ahead, members.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to raise a point of order under 23 HI and J. The member opposite, certainly particularly under 23I, has made numerous false or unavowed motives against our members. I would point out in his argument that both government caucus and opposition caucus participate in this conference. I would assume that their member or members who fly would be paying or would be on the same flight accommodation as the government side, unless they want to advise otherwise. So for him to make comments that frankly are abusive under 23J, to grandstand a little bit, I don't think is helpful for this committee. And as much as I always enjoy the members opposite sunny disposition, I'm not sure it's helpful in our discussions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, this is not a point of order. I am clearly just recapping for the members opposite what happened at this meeting and then identifying the hypocrisy of voting in favor of a free flight to Halifax for one of their members. And to take a...
Yet, but
no, I know. But to take a lecture on what's helpful for this committee from members who have voted at every turn to undermine the work of this committee is absolutely outrageous. But regardless, this is not a point of order, and I request that we just move on to a vote.
I think there were differences on other motions too. We kept it very orally, but this one I believe we could do the same and keep our differences more respectful, and I would caution members to use language a bit more carefully. The motion or recommendation before the committee as whether or not they would recommend that additional caucus members from each side could go to attend these conferences. So I won't find a point of order, but I will caution member to use more careful language going forward. Any other comments? Member Armenko.
This is the fourth recommendation in the last item on the agenda related to the CCPAC conference. That was, I believe all of these were put forward because of best practice. But at no other stage in this conversation today have the members opposite been interested at all in endorsing or supporting best practice, except when it comes to traveling across the country. I invite Albertans to read the Hansard transcripts if you're looking for a way to fall asleep at night, perhaps, and see just how active the participants, the 6 members opposite, have been in the conversation today, and how supportive they have been in actually trying to follow best practice. Because best practice currently states that we do talk about audit-focused meetings, that we do, in fact, call upon implementation plans and progress updates on fulfilling the recommendations from the Auditor General. It's rich that this is the only best practice that the members opposite are currently interested in supporting. In fact, that we had agreed that we would have 3 audit-focused meetings this fall, and then they backed out of the 3rd, despite having made earlier commitments, because they were, I don't know, I'd love to hear from any of the members opposite about why they've chosen to back out of that commitment. And so, if anything, I would ask for some consistency. If they can't support best practice for public account committees across the country, then perhaps they can fall in line on this one and also not support best practice of sending additional members to public accounts. There are excellent online resources to clarify what the purpose of this committee is. I don't think they need to travel across the country on the taxpayer's dime to figure out what that is.
Member Ellingson.
I'll just also, Mr. Chair, invite the members opposite when they're out meeting with their constituents to justify a free flight across the country when their government is racking up a $6.4 billion deficit.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you. I think that's all for today. I'm not asking for any motion on this item because when we will decide.
Apologies for.
Just a second, let me complete. When we will decide in the spring to send members to this conference, at that time, a motion will be before the committee to decide. Even for chair and deputy chair, that has been the practice, that committee approves that travel. That's how we participate. So a motion will be brought forward to the committee at the appropriate time. Go ahead, MLA Lenti.
Well, no, thank you for that clarity, Mr. Chair. I was about to comment. If the will of the committee, or if there was a motion to not send an additional member, I would certainly likely be in support of that motion. So, for the record, if to the chair's comments, when we see that motion, we'll certainly listen to arguments at the time and be very likely to vote to not allow an additional member.
I think we don't do motions to not do anything, but as I said, that participation for members of the committee will be in the form of a motion at an appropriate time for the upcoming conference.
Mr. Chair.
With that, moving on to other business. The Ministry of Indigenous Relations has provided a written response to question asked at our meeting with them on October 28, 2025. The response was posted on the committee's internal website, and as per our usual practice, it will be made available on the Assembly website. Are there any other additional item for discussion? Seeing none, the date of next meeting will be at the call of the chair, and at this time, I will call for a motion to adjourn. Will a member move that December 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Standing Committee on Public Account be adjourned? So moved by MLA Lovely. All those in favor? Any opposed? Meeting stands adjourned.